You attendees. There are a lot of places you could have chosen to be this afternoon, and I am humbled and honored that you're here with me. So today we will be talking about mathematics software in the classroom. Our game plan today, my goal is for you to come away from this session with an understanding of who we are here at Hawks, what our course offerings are in the mathematics discipline, how we approach the lesson cycle through the eyes of the student, and finally, how the data and analytics we provide on the back end can help inform your instructional practice. We'll leave a little bit of time at the end for Q&A and the gift card drawings, but I plan to stop after each section to answer any questions. As a reminder, throughout the entire session, feel free to use the Q&A button to ask questions. I have it popped up here on my screen, and like I said, we'll stop throughout the session to answer any questions. So first, who are we? These are the core pillars that guide us here at Hawks and are at the heart of what we do. First is service. First, let me start with a story. I was a K-12 band director for over a decade, and I used a piece of software in my class to record students and track their progress. And I could not tell you the number of emails I got at the start of a semester and even throughout the teaching process, trying to troubleshoot issues with students, trying to help them get everything up and running. And the keynote speaker was fabulous and talked about that first responder hat. And I also had to wear that IT help desk hat. At Hawks, we do not want to pass that along to you. You are stretched thin enough as is, and we want to help take work off your plate instead of add to it. So what does service look like at Hawks? Well, it looks like a 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. phone line where you will get a live human being Monday through Friday and under 4 rings. Your students and you will also have access to a 24/7 live chat, and you'll also have a dedicated training and support representative to help get you up and running and provide free and unlimited support and training throughout the entire time you use Hawks materials. We are also a team full of educators, so we have lots of conversations about taking an instructor's dream and vision and turning it into a reality. Our second pillar is affordability. If you've been watching the news, you know that with all of the student loan forgiveness, college costs are at the forefront of people's minds. So we do a couple of things to help with that. We have a lot of purchasing models. So we work with you and your institution to come to a purchasing model that fits you and your students' needs the best. We also offer lifetime access to our courseware materials. So if a student enrolls in your class, buys the materials, and then gets told by their advisor that, oh, you have to take another class at this 9 a.m. slot, they can withdraw, and whenever they come back to the class, they'll still have access to the materials. Or if a student just wants to review when they're further on down the curriculum, they want to review those foundational concepts, they'll still have access. Our third pillar is adaptability. We know that there is no such thing as two courses that look exactly alike or two instructors that have the exact same approach. So we want our materials to be flexible and adaptable to all of those different formats. And I'm excited to show you how. Our fourth pillar is mastery. Now, like I mentioned, I was a band director, a music teacher, and so I could never have a student play a song for me. They'd get 50% of the notes right and look and go, Timmy, performances next week. Good luck there. Instead, I would give them feedback and work to the point that we were both mutually working towards a successful performance. We here at Hawks think that an approach like that can be used throughout any discipline. So we have taken the mastery-based and competency-based education principles in pedagogy and completely use that to inform the approach and learning path that we take in our software. First, let's look at some feedback that we've received from instructors and students. An instructor has written to us and told us, the motivational approach to Hawks is real. I work with a lot of students who come from the inner city with the mindset that they're not good at math. I teach statistics with Hawks and have seen this mindset shift among students in stat classes. Students come in and have support and learn and practice. And then the adaptive components of Certify gives custom questions for students to work through to be successful, knowing if they spend time on these concepts, students will reach mastery and get full credit for homework, prompting them to continue to put in the work for success. I have seen more students pass my classes in the years I've done STAT with Hawks. Now, I think that that not only speaks to the content in the materials, which is of course high quality, but also the efficacy of the pedagogical approach that's baked into the courseware. You notice that the instructor mentioned learn, practice, and certify, and that's our 3-mode learning path that we take students through in every lesson on the way to mastery, which of course is one of our 4 pillars. Student from the University of Nevada in Las Vegas tells us, the practice tab really helps me sharpen my skills if I am still unsure on what I'm learning. If I come out of class asking myself what just happened, I know I can go to the practice tab, or if I understand everything, I can still use the practice tab to know what type of problems to expect to be able to certify. I think this really speaks to the adaptability of the software, not only at the broad course setup, but for each student, it's adaptable and gives them the autonomy to navigate through the learning process in the way that they see fit. And it really gives students a voice and agency in how they approach the class and how they tackle the materials. A student from Ohio University tells us, this is the easiest platform that I've worked on. It's super easy to input your answers and gives very clear and helpful feedback if incorrect. It doesn't just say you're wrong and move on. You get a detailed reason why and the correct answer. The learning part is really easy to follow and take notes on. I think that's just the ease of use speaking to that. You'll see when we dive into the software that everything is really thoughtfully laid out in a way where the path and what students are expected to do is very clear. And as mentioned earlier, we have a lot of flexibility in the purchasing models in order to reach the best outcome for your students. You'll notice throughout all of our purchasing models, your students will have access to the course content on the first day. I cannot tell you the number of times that I've heard instructors almost pull their hair out with course codes and getting access set up. When students are buying direct from the bookstore, direct from Hawks, they will get that 20-day temporary access for them for their financial packages to come in and student business services to get caught up. When we do inclusive access, that is first day access that is turned on. And of course, the course materials would be included in the student's tuition. So if you have any questions, I'm looking at my question and answer tab, and I don't see anything popping up quite yet, but just a reminder, if you have anything, just feel free to ask your questions in that question and answer tab, and we'll get to them as we go. So second, I want to touch on what our course offerings even are in the mathematics discipline. Starting at the developmental level, regardless of the way your developmental education is set up, we have options for single course developmental level titles, multi-course developmental level titles, and we really work with each instructor to look at what you're currently doing, what works, what you want to iterate on, and suggest something that is going to fit that particular model. Lots of states are switching over to a co-requisite model, and I have this image here from Complete College America, where students are split into pathways based on their major. And so for each of those pathways, statistics, STEM, and quantitative reasoning, we have co-requisite titles that were developed to provide students with just-in-time remedial content needed to best prepare the student for their pathway and success in the credit level classes. In those pathways, the credit level material, we have statistics titles, STEM titles from college algebra, pre-calculus, trigonometry, calculus, and even a version of calculus that really focuses on applications perfect for that brief calculus class that your institution may offer. Quantitative reasoning or liberal arts math titles. And for those of you who teach math courses in the business department, we also have mathematics with applications in business, business statistics, and that essential calculus with applications is a really great fit for any business calculus classes that you have that take place over a single semester. The course materials also come with chapter projects. We also have a website that has PowerPoints available. And the goal of these chapter projects are to take the concepts that students learn and give them a way to contextualize it to their actual lives. So using multiple regression to analyze and predict home prices, talking about the federal budget, where do my taxes go, trigonomic applications in orbits and orbital mechanics, just a couple of the ways that we try to take these concepts and really answer that question of, oh, why is this relevant, that we've all been asked a million times. Many of the titles come with a guided notebook that emphasizes the importance of writing mathematics and taking notes, and structures the note-taking process to give students a single resource to review for quizzes or exams. I know when I was going through school, the model of education was my professor would turn their back to the chalkboard and write, and it'd be up to me to determine what to write. Students these days will write one of two things. They'll either write nothing down or they'll write everything down, both of which can be really difficult when going back to review notes. So we've created this resource to guide that note-taking process. You'll see that there are some sections in there. One of my favorite ones is Math at Work, showing how these concepts in the courseware and in the titles actually apply to jobs and apply to certain career fields. And you'll also see the making connections, which really tie that remedial content from those co-requisite titles to the future credit level. So students don't just see it as a bunch of busy work, but they really see that this is where these skills are going to come into play later on. And then our co-requisite titles and several of the developmental level titles have this chapter 0, mathematics strategies for academic success. And the keynote was talking a lot about those soft skills that, quite frankly, and I think she shined a light right on this, that we don't talk about very often. How do you read a math textbook? Do I need a math tutor? How do I overcome anxiety just in this general broad way? And I think those are really important topics to broach with our students, but unfortunately, we just are really quick to get to the content sometimes in our textbook materials. So we've tried to include this as a resource for you to be able to use. All right, so before I jump into the student experience and take a look at the software itself, I see a couple of comments, questions here. Thank you for your ease of use. Yes, the course code is always stressful. I found Hawks to be very easy. And what makes it even easier is the single sign-on and LMS sync that we do. We work with Canvas, Blackboard, D2L, Brightspace, and Moodle so that students will be able just to click on a single link, get their access, and be good to go from the very first day of class. And the second question, is there an estimated price per student for the inclusive access? Well, that depends on who services the inclusive access agreement. And it really depends on which title. Some of the titles are designed for multiple courses. Some are designed for a single course. So I think that that's a conversation where if we went to the booth and had an individual conversation with one of the reps about what exactly you're looking for in a class, we'd be able to provide a way more specific answer. The vast majority I've found of packages, I think you'll be really happy with where the price lands. All right, so let's continue on. If I were to click that single sign-on link in my LMS or go into my Hawks Learning account, this is the dashboard I would be presented with. And just a little bit tour around the interface. I think the buttons do exactly what they say they're going to do. You can access grades, ebooks, discussion. You have your notification bell here with the items due today. The two things I really want to point out is this envelope, this messaging center, where we have automated assignment reminders. One of those things that we really try to do to take the work off of your plate as an instructor is provide an avenue for you to automate the delivery of messages for when students have assignments coming up or past due. When I taught, I used, like I mentioned, one of these courseware systems, and I would have assignments due on Friday. I would invariably spend Saturday waiting for those late assignments to trickle in. And on Sunday, I would sit on the couch, watch the NFL game, and type emails out to my students one by one with everything that they're missing. We provide a way to automate that process so that it's one less thing you have to worry about. That whole system for students being reminded that they have assignments are automated. They get emails. It looks like it comes from you. It follows your template. On the topic of reducing friction, students will have help, training videos, and access to live support straight from this drop-down menu. We want this help and this service and this support to be as available to students as possible in the quickest way. Again, so that your inbox isn't filling up with IT help desk items. We always want to be available in these ways. Of course, your students are also welcome to use that phone support line, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. They will get a live human being Monday through Friday in under 4 rings. And we just want to be able to take that off of your plate. Here I have my to-do list. By default, the assignments are listed chronologically: due today, due within a week, due later. But just like that adaptability piece I was talking about earlier, we want to make everything flexible enough to fit any sort of unique course delivery or unique options that you want to have available to your students. So this could be customized. Coming into a lesson here, I am presented with my 3-mode learning path, which you heard referenced earlier, of learn, practice, certify. And what really appeals to me about this is the exact same way that I taught a piece of music as a musician, as a music teacher. Students would learn the notes and rhythms of the song. They would have an opportunity to practice on their own with a variety of tools to help them through. And then at one point before that high stakes performance, they would come in and demonstrate or certify their mastery of the topic for me. And if they got to a level that I felt was that they had mastered the song, great, we're gonna have a great performance. But if not, they would get some feedback and be sent to go practice again. And we would continue through this loop until we were both happy with the outcome and we were ready for that high stakes performance. Now, of course, in your class, that high stakes performance are those quizzes, are those exams. And so this certify is like the homework, a way for students to prepare and build their competencies and their skills in preparation for that higher stakes assessment. So let's look at each mode one by one. The learn mode is a multimedia enriched presentation of the book content. Now, this is not a loading error. These materials were redesigned with this online modality in mind. Everything is WCAG 2.0 AA compliant. We meet accessibility standards, and that is a real important part of the process to us, is that students of all backgrounds, of all sorts of accommodations, should have equitable access to the learning materials. And even with a student's preferred learning modality. So if a student prefers to read through the content, we have that option available to them. If they prefer to watch or listen to content, we have these lesson level overview videos, usually under 10-minute lecture style overviews of the entire topic. And we also have example level videos that feature instructors working through the actual examples in the materials in the book. And as I navigate here, you'll see one of the examples, and you'll see it accompanied by that example level video. You'll also notice as I scroll in here to this graph, I have no loss of quality. Again, part of that accessibility initiative that we have. We want to make our materials able to be used by all sorts of learners, even if they need to zoom in to take a look at these graphs. And my favorite feature of this learn mode are these learn screen notes. Again, on that adaptability piece, we know that there are no such thing as 2 courses and 2 instructors that are exactly alike. So we have given you, the instructor, the ability to replace an existing page, hide a page, or add content to a page on the bottom half, just like this. So what you're seeing is the top half is the Hawks created content from the book. The bottom half comes from you. And you can add your own text, you can add your own examples, you can add YouTube videos. It's an HTML backend. So if you wanted to get really, really clever with it and embed interactives and statistical analysis and other sorts of tools, you are free to do that. And we have an awesome training and support team to help support you in getting those set up. So that is a perfect opportunity for us to demonstrate our commitment to service when we have instructors say, hey, I have an idea. I want to include this. Are you able to make this work? And 99 times out of 100, we're able to make it work exactly the way the instructor wants. And that's one of our favorite things to do is come in, solve problems, and make this really customized to what your students need. Our practice mode is an environment for students to be able to take what they learned and learn and be able to see the types of questions they'll see in the actual homework and have the tools to be able to support their learning. So you'll see my suite of learning tools down here at the bottom. And the first one I want to outline is my try similar button. You'll notice as I hit try similar, I get all sorts of prompts here asking me to determine the domain and range. If I were a basketball player and I made one free throw, I am not ready to go to the NBA yet. And so this allows me multiple attempts to really test my knowledge and see, do I actually understand in a variety of different prompts. Depending on the title, each question has up to 50 permutations, so students can really get to drill and practice their skills. I have my skip button, so I can go straight to the problem that I know is giving me trouble. And if I need a little bit of extra support, I can click on this tutor button, where I can see step-by-step instructions on how to complete the problem. I can re-reference my learning materials from Learn with those videos, both lesson level and example level, or I can just look at the solution. I can come back to practice after I've looked at the solution, hit try similar, and see if I've learned from looking at that. So it's just another way that we try to give students the flexibility, the autonomy to be able to determine how to best approach the learning path and what's best for their own learning outcomes. Again, that commitment to adaptability. We want to be adaptable to each student's preferred learning and how much support they want in answering the problems. If I were to get to this problem, and it's easy to imagine, I'm 18, 19 years old, and you might have the 8 a.m. class, and I might have come in 20 minutes late and missed a key bit of information. So I think I know what's going on. By the way, I just want to note, I put the symbology for real numbers here. If I tried to type the letter R, I'm going to get this. This is just one of those ways we try to be sensitive to answer tolerance and really make sure that students aren't being marked incorrect for correct answers. We actually do offer rewards if you're able to find an example of a student input that was marked wrong by the software that's mathematically correct. And to my experience, I've had 0 instructors come to me and have been able to find any of those instances. So again, kind of back to the example, I'm a little confused. Freshman 8 a.m. class, and I'm wrong. And every platform tells me if I'm wrong or right, but we have a team full of educators on our content team who have really drawn on their years of classroom experience to be able to anticipate and diagnose what common students' errors are. They've walked the walk and they've heard for years that these are the topics that students commonly struggle with. And so we try to provide students the exact same type of feedback that they would get if they were sitting with you during office hours. So I'm being told that it appears I have confused the definitions of domain and range because the values I entered were reversed. And then I can get some definitions. And at this point, again, I can choose my own path. I have some autonomy. I have some flexibility. And do I want to go look at that hint, the learn, or the solution again? Or was this enough feedback? Do I just want to go back, try again? And we do this because in the way that I learned math is I got the worksheet. It usually had 4 problems across and as many problems down as could fit on 1 page or 2 pages. And by the time you complete those worksheets, I've made the error 20, 30 times. By the time I turn it in, you get the feedback back to me. I look at the paper, I see the grade on the top, and I toss it out. And that feedback has not been taken into account. And I have done it so many times that these common misconceptions are embedded in my long-term memory. So by providing this feedback right at the time of error, we prevent these common misconceptions from getting ingrained in a student's long-term memory. And that's one way that we try to support the learning process at the time and expand your reach and really empower you to get this feedback to students when they're not in the classroom. Our certify mode, you'll see, is mastery based with a default mastery level of 80%. And when I go in, you're gonna notice it looks almost the exact same. That's because the whole purpose of practice is to prepare students for certify. But you'll notice all of my learning aids here at the bottom are gone. I can't skip problems till I find the one that I really want to answer. I can't hit try similar till I find the version I like. I'm really holding myself accountable for my learning, and I'm proving to you and myself that I actually understand and have mastered the content before the time of that test. Now, the whole goal of this mode is to answer a complete problem set at a defined mastery level without instructional aids. So for the 20 questions at an 80% default mastery level, both of those are customizable, by the way, I get 4 strikes. On that 5th strike, I leave this practice, I leave certify, I go back to practice where I see questions that are based off of my misses. And that's where we've baked some adaptive remediation into the courseware so that students have a low stakes penalty free environment to make mistakes. And then they will always have that opportunity in practice to learn from those errors with those tools. And just one more thing I wanted to show before we move on to the instructor mode is if you ever have students that come to you and say, what do I need to study? What do I need to practice? What do I not know? Well, we've provided them with a way to come to that information by themselves. So I can create a practice test here. And I can come into a particular chapter, choose some lessons, choose how many questions I want, and a time limit. And the courseware will generate a practice test for me. There's my timer. I can navigate through questions. We'll just go ahead and answer a couple of these. You'll notice I can navigate through my questions in the exam mode. And we'll just go ahead and submit here. And I get, as a student, analytics of my performance. So we're going to pretend for a second that the gray questions I haven't answered were green, that I answered them correctly. And so I would see from this that I'm pretty good in 5.2. I'm doing okay in 5.1, but I really need some help in 5.3. I missed a lot of the problems. I missed half of them. So I can just click on that lesson and be brought to a practice session where I can practice that skill that I've seen that I was not prepared for. Again, another way to provide students some autonomy with being able to navigate through their own learning process. All right, so those were the learner tools available to the students, and those are the eyes of the student as they walk through the lesson cycle. Wanted to outline just a few tools that are available to the instructor, and then we'll move on to some questions and answers at the end. So I'm going to log in to my instructor account here. And you'll see, again, it's really thoughtfully laid out. The feature I really like about this is that I can switch between my student and instructor views so that I can, as I edit my course, take a look at what the students are seeing and double check that. And so I really want to show you, if you have a school with a course where there's a lot of instructors teaching the course, if I were an adjunct or a junior faculty member, how fast I can actually get this done. And so if I had a course coordinator that set everything up, let's set up a new course together. So I have one click to get into my course. I come into Tools, Manage Sections, add a new section. I believe I'm at 5 clicks now. I just name my section, apply a template that my course coordinator has already set up. That was 6, 7 clicks, save changes, and in 8 clicks, I have created a section and I have it up and running for my students. under 10 clicks to get set up. Now, if I were the course coordinator, I would only need to do one more thing to get up and running, is I would need to assign some lesson due dates. So I would just come in here to lesson due dates. Everything we have in the instructor side is set up with templates, allowing you to easily copy settings from section to section, instructor to instructor, and really from semester to semester if you would like. So I'm just going to click on the section we just created. And I can just, with a couple of clicks here, assign lessons. And I'm only assigning the lessons that I want my students to interact with. So when I come in, they'll only see what I've assigned. Now, let's say I've had a snow day, or I'm in Ohio, so we have those from time to time. I can shift due dates. I love this feature. Come in here. I can shift it. Every due date after the 16th, after today, gets shifted by 7 days. I think that's a wonderful feature for you to quickly shift dates if you have closures, be able to shift dates from semester to semester. And then, of course, you can check a calendar to make sure that you haven't put any assignments accidentally on a holiday or some other break. Very easy to get up and running. So all you have to do is create your section, assign some due dates, and you're off to the races. Now, if I really wanted to get into the weeds, so to say, I have my templating feature again. I can go in and set up my mastery level, my strikes for every lesson all at once, by individual lesson. I can require students to practice if I want. I can come in here and actually edit the homework assignment for any lesson that I want. So what you're seeing here is on the right side, you have the default assignments that Hawks created. And on the left side, we have the question bank here. And I can really easily just come in and remove questions and add new questions. And I can even take a look at the objectives for the question and the difficulty level. So I can really tailor a custom experience, and I can do so much more of this. So we really want to have the adaptability of the system to be able to support those instructors who want to get up and running in as little as 8 clicks, or that want to curate a custom experience for their students where they see a particular set of questions in a particular order. If you want, you can even author your own questions or use our question bank to build tests and build exams. Last thing I wanted to show before we move on to our question and answers are some of the data and analytics you can get, some of the feedback that you can get from student performance. First report here I have are my all student scores. And this is what I consider to be the traditional grade book appearance. So I can see at a glance how all of my students are doing. I can expand this out, take a look at who has turned in assignments on time, who's late, who still hasn't done it yet. And I can even come in and edit due dates, edit scores, or look at each student's individual submissions. I can do all of those same functionalities on a per student basis on my detailed student grades. Really helpful if you know that a student's coming in for office hours, they have an appointment set up and you just want to take a look at that snapshot of that one student. I can filter my grade book. So instead of looking at my wide field full of check marks, I can just save some filters and really quickly find all my students that have a C or below that haven't logged in for 5 days. And I can send a message to that student. Or I could do the inverse, find my students who are performing really well, send them a note of encouragement. And really powerful things I can do with this search by criteria. I can filter by time spent in assignment, time on task. It's a very powerful way to instantly get to a group of students that you want to be able to identify. The final report that I want to show today, which is my favorite report, is our assignment reviewer. I get a bird's eye view of the lesson of how many students have done it, how many have done it late, and how many are past due. I can take a look at the class of my average learn, practice, and certify minutes, or I can dive down into the lesson and take a look at the same data on a per student basis. Now, we are FERPA compliant. These are all obviously not actual students in actual classes. And so what I can see here is who's mastered it, who hasn't, how many attempts they've had, and how long they've spent in each mode. So this really can let me see, Eric, you have tried 4 times, but you have not spent any time learning. You have not spent any time practicing. You've only just tried to come in to certify 4 times for only 13 minutes. So let's talk about your process, Eric. It's a really powerful tool to be able to have and generate those insights to guide those conversations. So you're not on the back end wondering why students aren't clicking and why they're not making it work. You can even use this data to inform some settings. You can come back in to the assignment settings and start to require practice if you see a large number of your students are just attempting without any time spent practicing. I think this is a really great way to get some further insights into how students are performing and how they're allocating their time through the learning process. And wish it was an insight that I had when I was in the classroom. I think it's a very powerful way to be able to drive instructional decisions. Last thing to show is our analytics. So I can go on a question by question, item by item basis and look at student performance in that way. I can look at the average time spent on each question, or if I've identified a question that students have performed particularly poorly on, I can pop an example of that question up. Now, the best part about this screen is there's no personally identifying data here, meaning I can project this screen in the class and do intervention in real time. If I have an assignment due on Monday, on Wednesday, I can have this screen up as students are walking in and be able to identify those items students are struggling with in the moment to help guide the conversation and clear misconceptions up as they're going in the lesson cycle. All right. So that is the 30,000-foot overview of what we do with the courseware. And I see a couple of questions in the questions and answers. So I figured we'd take a couple of moments and answer them, and then we'll do a drawing. So I see a question, what is the main reason for not allowing backtracking between questions in this mode? And I believe you're talking about certify. So the idea with that is that the questions are scaffolded in certify in a way where a student's understanding is built through the process of the lesson. So that's why we don't allow it there. When students go into their tests or their exams, they are free to skip between questions and roll as they go and build that as they go. But in certify and practice, we've really done that to enable teachers to curate a custom experience where each question may or may not, depending on the instructor's preference, build on the one before it. Does the software integrate with Canvas or work with HonorLock? Yes, it integrates with Canvas. We integrate with Canvas, Blackboard, D2L, Brightspace, and Moodle. And we partner with Respondus to do a lockdown browser. But I do know that we have some team members that have done some clever workarounds, so to say, to be able to use some of these other solutions, video proctoring and whatnot. And so it doesn't natively work with it, but people like Shriver are highly intelligent human beings and can readily make stuff like that work.
And I'll speak to that really quickly on the HonorLock part. It does work well with HonorLock, with the way that HonorLock is set up with the browser extension. That works great. I have a number of schools that I work with who do use that. It's quite nice too. It has the automatic password entry, so you can put a password on your Hawks test and know that it's going to work for your students, and then that they won't ever be able to get in unless they go through HonorLock.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Like I said, I'm not in the trenches on questions like that from day to day. So it's helpful to have that perspective. Last question I wanted to answer before we move on to the drawings, and I love this question. Have Hawks instructors found that students value the mastery-based approach to learn, practice, and certify as intended, rather than circumnavigate mastery by using technologies such as photomath? I would assume that this question also applies to tools like ChatGPT and other AI technologies. Also, does every Hawks title include note-taking guides or just the developmental titles? So answer the first question. And I'm going to answer it in a circuitous manner with an analogy. When I was growing up, we had something called Napster, where we would illegally download music because the barrier to entry to get music was difficult. I mean, to get an album, you had to go to the music store and buy a $10 album to get 10, 12 songs. And people like Spotify and Apple have largely solved that issue by reducing the barriers and disincentivizing the motive to go through and pirate music. Now, am I saying that music piracy is no longer an issue and 100%? No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying I don't know anyone who does that anymore. And so by reducing the penalty for wrong answers in the homework, that is the largest part of the incentive to cheat, in my opinion, and what I've seen as a teacher, is I take away that penalty for making mistakes and doing things wrong. And most human beings want to learn and are there for the right reasons. And so to answer your question, yes, Hawks instructors have found that students value the approach. I have found, because mastery works. I know this from teaching in music for 10 years. Mastery works. And the research, Dan Pink and Drive, also has a lot of words that suggest that when you disincentivize those traditional motives to cheat, you can get some pretty surprising results, because humans are intrinsically motivated to learn and seek mastery and grow their skills. And I think that our approach perfectly aligns with that research. Does every Hawks title include note-taking guides, or just the developmental titles? It's not just the developmental titles. There are many other titles that do include those guided notebooks. Not every single one does, but we are working to expand which titles. So that's a very good individual conversation. And I bet if that's important to you, we could find a title that would be a great fit for you. All right. Well, I rest my case. I hope that again, thank you so much for joining me today. I know that you could have been a lot of places and you chose to spend these 42 minutes with me, and I am so appreciative of that. I will be around for the rest of the summit. If I would love to have a chat and continue the conversation. I'll be in the booth later today, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of the sessions, and have a great end of the week.
Awesome. So we're getting real close to our end of our time here. So I want to say a couple quick thank yous. First to Austin for presenting. That was fantastic. And thank you for all the valuable information you were sharing. And also for everyone who attended. We can never have a conference without attendees. So it's always very appreciative of y'all to be here. So it is now time then for our spin and win for the giveaways. So each winner will receive a $25 Amazon gift card, and we'll get started here in just a second. All right. So looks like it's time to go. So we can click here, and our first winner is Amanda Brewer. Looks like, congratulations. All right. And our second winner today, it's a close one. Oh, folks, congrats. All right, our third and final winner for this session. Anna Thompson, congratulations. All right, so the next concurrent session will begin at 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can view the chats for session meeting room links, or to access the conference website for a complete list of the concurrent sessions and their descriptions. Now, while accessing the conference website, please don't forget to swing by the virtual exhibit hall to say hello to the Hawks team. You can view a quick 5-minute demonstration, request your t-shirt, and be entered to win one of the hourly giveaways, which are your choice of a $50 Amazon gift card, a Ticketmaster gift card, or a Barnes & Noble gift card. So we will see you all at the next session.